What is up, lads? How's it going? And welcome back to the channel. The day is finally upon us. We're less than 24 hours away from the Gameweek 1 deadline, so there's plenty of managers stressing out on how they'll be lining out their team. All I can say is stress no more. We've got the guidance of a manager who finished 14th, yes 14th in the world last year, in FPL Quinner, so make sure to check him out on Twitter and Instagram and give him a follow for today's video. Right, let's see how he's currently lining up. Let's get into the video. Before we get into Quinner's team, I asked him to send me on a few notes on how he played the game throughout the season and how his management style led to him ending up 14th overall out of 9 million players. I definitely recommend you to take heed of some of his points when picking your Gameweek 1 team and when you're playing the game throughout the season. Quinner credits a successful season to a fast start that allowed him to gather points and team value that gave him a solid foundation for the weeks ahead. His first wildcard came in Gameweek 8 after the international break, and he also recommends to do the same this year, and I have to agree with him. It's the perfect time to hop off Arsenal players when their fixtures turn sour and hop on to Chelsea players when they've a nice run of fixtures. Quinner is also a believer of fixtures over form, and this definitely worked in favour for him last year, sometimes even picking Kane and United assets over the very popular Mo Salah. Everyone knows when Mo Salah returned from AFCON, he had a dip in form, but most managers still captain him every week. This definitely worked in favour for Quinner and was a big factor in his very successful season. He also only took 32 points worth of hits last season, so he definitely advises to be cautious when making your transfers. Quinner's advice for the season ahead is to play it steady, trust your gut, and pick good players with good fixtures and you'll be alright. Fair play to Quinner on an absolute dream season last year, so from that, let's go on and see how he's lining up ahead of the Gameweek 1 deadline. First up on goals for Quinner is Éire Ramsey. He's eyeing up Arsenal's favourite first 7 fixtures, and I have to agree with him for choosing him here. We both agree that Ramsey is an absolute bonus magnet, and Quinner notes that he's definitely worth the 0.5 million over the other 4.5 million keepers, because if Arsenal keep a clean sheet and Ramsey makes a few saves, he'll definitely be in the bonus points. Let's hope us Ramsey owners get a clean sheet against Palace tonight and hopefully some bonus points. Let's move on and have a look at how his defence is lining up. FPL Quinner has gone for double Liverpool defence in Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robbo. This means that he won't have Diaz in his team, but Quinner notes the extra million save with Robbo can be put to good use elsewhere, and Robbo also has the advantage of some extra points if Liverpool end up keeping clean sheets. I've also got these 2 Liverpool players on my own team, so I can't argue with these picks. Next up for Quinner, he's making sure he's got some City defensive cover in João Cancelo with another premium defensive pick. I have to agree with this Cancelo pick, as he's definitely an essential player in FPL, and barring any injuries, he definitely won't be leaving your team. The last addition to Quinner's defence is Ivan Perisic, but after Conte's press conference today, he is a wee bit worried that he mightn't start the first game week. Quinner has told me he's eyeing up Reece James as a potential replacement for Perisic, as he's not too confident on a Perisic start from Conte's presser. It's definitely something to keep in mind for your own team if you're currently going with Perisic. That's his defence out of the way, let's go on to the midfield. The first 2 spots in his midfield goes to Mohamed Salah and Bukayo Saka. No explanation needed for having Mo Salah in his team, but he's gone with Saka for the potential penalties and he's therefore paying 2 million extra over Martinelli. To be honest, I don't really agree with paying an extra 2 million for Saka, but Quinner finished 14th last year, so I can't really argue with his decision. With Jimenez out for 8 weeks, Quinner has opted for Pedro Neto in the hopes that he'll be playing as an out of position midfielder up front for Wolves. At 5.5 million, you can't argue with that price for Neto, and I think he'll definitely be a great pick to start the season. His final spot in his midfield goes to another budget pick in Leon Bailey. In my own current team, I'm currently edging towards Neto over Bailey, but I do feel I'm going to miss out on some points with Bailey considering how well he performed pre-season. I definitely can't argue with the way he's set up in midfield, and with paying only 10.5 million for some nice picks in Neto and Bailey, you definitely can't fault his choices. Let's move on to his strikers and have a look at who he's picked for those 2 vacant positions. His first striker position goes to the highest owned player in the game in Gabriel Jesus. With Arsenal's favourable opening fixtures and Jesus' high ownership, Quinner notes that it would be very foolish not to go with the Brazilian. I think nearly everyone in the FPL community will be hoping for a goal or an attacking return tonight. The big debate in the community is whether to start with Kane or Haaland, and Quinner has opted for Haaland ahead of Gameweek 1. The reason for this is that he doesn't want to pre-book a transfer in after Gameweek 1, and going with Haaland from the start ensures he has him for Gameweek 2 against Bournemouth. I'm in the same boat as Quinner, and I'm starting off with Haaland, and I think he can still do very well against West Ham. That's a lovely starting 11 from Quinner. Let's have a look at his bench. Danny Ward is the first time on the bench as a 4 million keeper that will potentially be starting for Leicester. He's then gone for Patterson over Nico Williams as he favours Everton to keep more clean sheets at the start over Nottingham Forest. Moving on then to his 4.5 million striker, he's gone with Archer for Villa as he probably has the most potential to get minutes out of all the 4.5 million strikers. To finish his 15-man squad, he finishes off with Andres Pereira for Fulham, and he definitely is the best option as a 4.5 million midfielder. All in all, it's a very solid team from a man who finished 14th in the world last year. I'll leave a link to FPL Quinner's Instagram and Twitter in the description below, so give him a follow lads, he's well worth the follow. I'll also be live streaming ahead of the Gameweek 1 deadline this evening, so come and join me before the deadline and send in any questions you have. There you have it, best of luck for Gameweek 1, I'll see you in the next video.